Hi.
All right, hello again.
Oh, look
How are
at this
you?
setup. This is fancy.
Right?
So I last saw Kamala Harris in Iowa. She's focusing her campaign on Iowa since the first votes are there. We had a 3-day campaign swing through Iowa, multiple stops, multiple cities. Got to know her there and also saw how the crowds are reacting to her. She's got some catching up to do. She's behind in the polls. She has to convince people that she's still in this, and that's getting a little bit hard to do. It's always been thought that California might be a built-in advantage for her, since the state moved up its primary and is going to be on Super Tuesday. But even that I don't think is a sure bet right now. She lives in LA, grew up in the Bay Area, and spent most of her career there. But I think even in California, people are wondering if she still has what it takes to make it to the finish line in this primary.
Look, let's deal with the elephant in the room, or really, more appropriately, the donkey in the room, which is this whole conversation about electability in this campaign. So, first of all, it is not a new conversation for me. This is a topic that has been raised in every campaign I have won. Emphasis on won.
Kamala Harris grew up in the civil rights movement. Her parents were both activists, but then she decided to become a prosecutor, which to a lot of her friends in the social justice movement was the enemy. But she felt like if you want to change a system that's broken, you got to get inside that system.
Our new U.S. Senator, Kamala Harris!
People from the beginning every time would say, oh, nobody like you has done this before. Not your time, not your turn. They're not ready for you. They're not ready for this. And I didn't listen. And we won. But more importantly, the American people did not listen either. And they elected me. Because the American people have the ability to see what can be unburdened by what has been. But I also am fully aware of the challenge before us, which is to ask people to imagine and believe in something that has not happened before, and asking them to do that when the stakes are so high.
Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry.
I want to start with first, the transcripts on Ukraine. Yep. President Trump has said he's going to go ahead and authorize and allow them to be released.
I don't know if you've heard, there's some stuff happening in Washington. What do you make of the transcript that came out?
I am beyond outraged. We have in a president of the United States someone who literally thinks he's above the law. He is a lawless president. He is the most unpatriotic president we've ever had. And he needs to be impeached. We may disagree with our president, but we want to respect our president. And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So my entire childhood and really the most formative years of my life, all of the people who probably had the most profound impact on who I became were educators and were invested in nurturing and growing children to be confident and successful adults. And it is why I've always focused on children. When I was a prosecutor, my specialization was child sexual assault. Some of the worst cases you can imagine, and the worst of human behavior. And, I do realize that a large part of my focus and reason for being for myself is to protect our children. And that's why I talk so much about everything from the climate crisis to the need for gun safety laws to what we need to do around making sure that working families can get through the end of the month. That's why I talk about these issues often through the lens of a child, because I think that if people understand these, otherwise maybe complex or big issues from that perspective, they will understand why these are urgent matters.
Voters really want to like Kamala Harris. She's an appealing presence, she's very charismatic, but she's had a hard time defining herself and why they should choose her rather than the many, many other options in this Democratic field. She has a lot of potential, but I think at this late date in the game, people are still waiting for her to really define what she's all about.